Good afternoon. Drive. I have a guest with me today. Her name is Cindy Sanabria, also known as Slaughter Sin, and she is the founder of Women of Color in Horror and also the Horror Tour Guide. Welcome to the show. I'm going to start with greeting the chat right quick, and then we'll get right into it. Thank you so much for coming, by the way.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Okay, so in the chat we have ad nauseum 11, Mistress of the Snark. Let's go. That's one of my nicknames, Mistress. Omiki Latte says, hey.
Hey.
Tony Man says, do the sound check again. I was away from my headphones. Well, it's too late now. The show has already started. Mystic Max says, hello, ladies, and hello, chat.
Hey.
So we are going to get right into it. How are you feeling today?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing pretty good. One thing I want to say is I hated how I was cutting off part of your top on the thumbnail because I love that t-shirt. You're trying to fit the t-shirt. Yeah. The t-shirt you had, I think it's from, is it Fright Night?
From the other, is it the other film?
The picture, no, the picture that's on the thumbnail for this video. The t-shirt.
Yes.
Yeah, Fright Night. That one is a good t-shirt too.
Thanks. I love it.
I know it's a lot of horror fans have great t-shirt collections.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of them. I love horror, so.
That leads me to my first question for you. Do you remember what the first horror movie was that you watched?
The first horror movie that I watched, I would have to go back in time, and I would have to say it was Poltergeist.
Oh, it's the same for me.
Oh, really?
Yes, that's the same one. And my first memory of it, I fell asleep on it because it was we saw it at the drive-in, and I'm the same age as Heather O'Rourke that played Carol Ann. So it was really interesting rewatching. I saw it on video when I was older, like 10 or 11 years old, but that's my first conscious memory of seeing a horror movie. And it was PG, so I think a lot of us saw it because our parents didn't know.
Right. Well, I was scared to death when he started peeling off his face. I tried to run away. Yeah. I still seen like the reflection of the television in the window. I still have that memory.
For me, it was that clown.
Yeah, the clown was creepy.
Yes.
I've always kind of liked clowns, though. I don't know why. They've never like really been like super afraid of them, but I could see why, because that was a creepy scene with that kid.
Oh yeah. Do you have a horror movie that was, well, let me rephrase that. Do you have a movie that scared you as a child that was not a horror movie?
A movie that scared me as a child that was not a horror film was...
In chat, while she's thinking, you guys can put your answers in the chat too for a movie that when you were a child is not a horror movie, but it still scared you.
Right. I would have to say it was a cartoon called The Last Unicorn. And I forgot her name, Mia Farrow, which was Woody Allen.
I know Mia Farrow.
Yeah. He did that horrible stuff too. But yeah, she voiced the voice of the unicorn and the woman. But it was a really dark cartoon, you know. It was very dark, but I liked it. And it was about like saving unicorns and stuff.
There were a lot of those back in the day, like the original The Hobbit cartoon.
The Secret of Nymph. You remember that?
Yes, The Secret of Nymph. I've never rewatched it because I was so I don't know. It just gave me such an awful feeling. I've never rewatched it.
Yeah, they were like animations with like adult problems and yeah. So I would say that like Secret of Nymph, you know, those, you know, The Last Unicorn, they weren't necessarily horror. I would label them and classify them as horror, you know, according to like what I do, because I try to break down like genres and subgenres of films. I mean, yeah, of films, because some people may think that certain films aren't horror, but they really are. So I'm constantly debating with people about like like fantasy or something like that, like true crime. It still falls
Oh
under
yeah.
that genre.
I
But
was
they
watching,
snuck that in for us as kids, right?
yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day about this movie that we it popped back up on Tubi to terrorize a whole new generation. But the peanut butter solution. I don't know why that movie was creepy to me, but I want to rewatch it as an adult to figure out why did this movie creep me out.
I think that's based off of a book. I've never
Mhm.
watched the film though.
Yeah, it's
I'm willing to check it out. I'd be down to check it out.
oh yeah, it's about a little boy that goes into this build. It's either a building or a haunted house. I can't remember the structure, but he gets so scared that all his hair falls out. So then he finds out about how to make this peanut butter solution to make his hair grow back. And then other kids in his class also use it. Like one of the kids used it on his pubic hair. And then the hair never stops growing.
Oh,
It's kind of like that oh, do you remember John Carpenter's Body Bags?
yes, yes.
Yeah, that there was like one segment of Body Bags where the guy went to the hair restoration place and the hair just wouldn't stop growing. It's kind of like that situation, but I feel like there was something else creepier in there.
Something sinister in the hair. There's a
Mhm.
couple of those hair ones that are pretty good.
Filmmaker Latte says that she is drawing a blank, and Mystic Max says, "I'm gonna say What Lies Beneath with Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer." Haha. I heard a lot of people say it's not a horror film. Mystic Mac, you're young because I was an adult when those movies came out.
What Lies Beneath definitely is a horror film. I would classify it as
Mhm,
horror. I mean, people say that it's like drama thriller or whatever, but thrillers
mhm.
fall under the subgenre. Um, Thrillers are a subgenre of the horror genre.
Yeah, I think so too.
Hmm.
Oh,
Especially when there's things like murder and stuff like that. Man.
mhm. Speaking of genres, do you have a favorite subgenre of horror or sci-fi?
Yes, I do. I like fantasy. I like
Mm,
fantasy sci-fi. I'm a big sci-fi horror, fantasy horror. I would like allude to things more towards like Guillermo de Toro's
yeah.
Pan's Labyrinth.
Mhm,
So you have like that horror element, right? But in this girl's mind, she has like this whole imaginative world, but even that world is dark, right? Because you
mhm,
have the fawn setting her to do bad things to her, like her mom, her pregnant mom, or
mhm,
whatever. Like, there's all these like obstacles in there that totally like show, and then the war that's going on. There's like real graphic stuff in that.
mhm. Yeah.
Um, so I would say fantasy horror, sci-fi horror, and I'm a huge fan of like dark comedy. I'm like that is
Mhm,
my top. I love like if they can achieve something that's really good on the gore level for me and
mhm,
really good on the but like even it out with the comedy, that's like a win-win for me. So I like Tucker and Dale versus Evil, for example. If
mhm.
that's one that I really like. I'm very like old school, so I like things like The Blob, the remake,
Yes.
the 80s one, Dead Alive.
Oh,
Um,
I love that movie.
I love that movie. But stuff like that. So it's like it's so gory and stuff like that, but then you have like these funny things happening and so I like yeah, I like that. I like stuff like that. I actually enjoyed The Happening. Like
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you've seen it.
I
I
see
think
it
you
happening.
were. Yeah, you did see it. You're the one that got me to watch it because I was like, "Oh, it's out." And then I finally watched it and it was better than I had thought it was going to be.
Mhm,
I thought it was gonna be like a little cheesy or whatever, but when I seen it, I actually thought it was pretty decent. Could have been like a little more gore and stuff, like a
mhm.
little, killer scenes and bloody, but it was decent. Like I wouldn't knock it. I actually thought it was a little bit better than some films I've seen this year so far.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah, there's 2 films I just recently watched that they were surprising. I was looking forward to them, but one of them I didn't know about until the last minute. I had been looking forward to, Talk to Me for a few months.
right.
And
I
then
think
just
that.
right before Talk to Me came out, or maybe it might have been the same weekend, Cobweb popped up. And I said, "Well, this looks interesting."
Yes, yes. I haven't watched Cobweb yet, and I've heard good things about that. I just seen Talk to Me. I was a little disappointed with Talk to Me.
Yeah, because I was watching all these people say, "It's the scariest movie I've ever seen,"
Thank
and I'm like,
you.
"Am I desensitized? Have I seen too many scary things?"
Right, right. And I was like, I wasn't getting it. Like it was decent, but it was like to me it was like so cliche. It was like Yeah, I was looking for more,
Mhm.
like I didn't get that fear that I got when I watched The Exorcist, or
Yeah.
or even Amityville, and that,
Mhm.
like, now I could see it, but I remember being young as a child watching that, like the priest, like, the
Mhm.
ghost telling them get out or whatever, and just that freaking the crap out of
I
me.
I think it's the pacing too, because we kinda
Right.
jump right into the story, and with that type of story, it's good that you brought up The Exorcist, because like, the first third of that movie is just establishing the background of the characters, like, you first learn about, is it Father Merrin, yeah, I almost started to say Karras. Father Merrin, it starts with him being in the Middle East, you see what he does, then it goes to the mother, and you see what she does for a living, and you get to know these people, and then little flashes of things start to happen at first, and then it built, and that's what makes it so great. Whereas with Talk to Me, um, all I know about this girl is she has a best friend who has a little brother who she the girl forgot to pick up, and her mom passed away, but there's no, like, character development, there's no reason to
I
care
agree.
about these
I
kids.
agree. Yeah, there was no real storyline to follow aside from a bunch of kids playing pranks and wanting to, like,
Yeah,
I don't want to spoil it, but yeah,
mhm.
I'm here with you.
Yeah, I think it just needed that first act to be more about who are these kids before the danger's introduced. So then when
Right.
you shift that, it makes more of an impact. Well, that's just my
I
opinion.
agree. I agree. Like I didn't fall in love with the characters, and
Mhm,
that's really important when it comes to character development. It's like you want to form a bond with the viewers and the
mhm,
characters of your story. So it's a little hard to do if you're just trying to, just kind of jump into like what what you
mhm.
want the film to be about, but there's like so
Yeah,
much.
and it doesn't have to take that long. I think there's a
No,
misnomer that people think that, "Oh, it's gotta take 20, 30 minutes." Look at how much
exposition. It could have
yeah,
it during exposition.
look how much character development Wes Craven did in the beginning of Nightmare on Elm Street with just the kids staying over Tina's house. You see
Right.
Ron try to call his parents and fake that he's somewhere else. You see, Glenn try to call his parents and fake somewhere else. You see Rod, how he interacts with everybody. He's kind of jerky, but they kind of like him anyways. Just their interaction with each other, we get a feel for who are these people. And then it's probably maybe a 5 to 7 minute sequence, but you still get a good feel for who they are.
Right. I love how thorough you are with your film
Oh,
talk. Like you know your film. I like
oh,
that.
thank you. Let me jump into the chat again because there's a bunch in here. Okay. Ultimate Sunrise says, "Hey, ladies and gents." Mystic Man says, "Out of all of that good food she had to pick from in Pan's Labyrinth, she risked it all for a single grape."
Great.
Ultimate Sunrise says, "Happy Friday. I'm off in 45 minutes, craving a good found footage film suggestions." I really enjoyed Spree, which is about like an Uber driver. The app that he works on is called Spree, and his side thing is that he wants to be a really famous. They don't say whether it's YouTube or Twitch, but he wants to be a famous streamer. But everything he does doesn't work until one day he starts doing really deadly, nefarious things, and that's when he starts trending and going viral. And so it's called Spree. That one was I thought that was pretty good for a found footage, and also it's great because it doesn't look too shaky, because a lot of it is Steadicam with the camera inside of his car, and then some security footage outside the car, and then there's some, live stream footage from him on his phone, but it's not the type of shaky cam footage that you would see in some, um, found footage. Do you have a suggestion?
That would probably be the subgenre that I am like my
The
least
least?
favorite.
Yeah.
But because it's been oversaturated,
Mhm.
and like you said, like when it comes to like shaky footage, I'm not a big fan. But there are a few exceptions. I would have to say the very first found footage that I know about
Mhm.
is not Blair Witch.
Mhm.
Cannibal Holocaust.
Yeah.
I would take it back to the beginning. I mean,
Mhm.
that's a graphic film too. Um, that film was actually brought to court for
Yes.
things that they did in the camera. Like they literally thought that some of that stuff was real, and like directors and producers were arrested and brought to
Mhm.
trial for that.
Yeah, they thought it was a snuff film.
Yeah, they did, and they had to put it. And I mean, like some of the stuff was so realistic, like the impalement. They
Yes.
literally had to bring that woman to trial. I mean,
Mhm,
as a witness to make sure she was still alive.
mhm.
And she showed how she did it, like on a bicycle and everything. She was like
Yeah, she
on
was like
foot, like
and sorry about that. She was like a acrobat artist or something like that.
right,
Mhm,
right. So see, I like that. I also like films with controversy.
mhm,
So I would say that would be my pick. Would be Cannibal Holocaust. If you
mhm.
have not watched it, I would definitely say go all the way to the beginning. And then there's another one. I forgot the name of it, but it has to do with ghosts. Obviously, right? Um, Grave Encounters. I thought that one
Yes.
was okay.
Yeah, that's
Um,
even better if you watch, like, Ghost Adventures and those type of shows that is kind of
yes, it's totally up that avenue, but I love
mhm.
it because it to me it parodies that in a
Yes,
sense.
that's what I meant. I think it's a parody.
Right, right. And then but there's like some of the stuff in there is really good. Like
Mhm,
I think some of the, some of the scares are good. I was pretty satisfied for that being a found footage film.
mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, another one, Gonjam, Haunted Asylum. That one is pretty good. It's not super scary, but I like how the story progresses. It's about
Sounds
uh,
really
these YouTubers they have like a ghost hunting show, and they decide to go to this haunted asylum.
yes.
Yeah, and
I
it's just
think it's on Netflix,
it's
right?
pretty good. Hmm?
I'm sorry. I'm
No, go
sorry.
ahead.
No, I said I think it's on Netflix. No,
Yeah,
it sparked a chord in me when you
yeah,
mentioned
it's either Netflix or Amazon Prime. I
right.
can't remember where I last watched it, or it might also be on Shutter.
Ah, yes.
Tony Man says, "I detect a Northeast accent. We know our own."
I'm from Harlem, born and raised.
Mhm. I knew it was New York
Yeah,
because I'm
yeah.
from Connecticut.
I'm a project girl. I was born and raised in New York projects in
Mm.
Harlem for like 30 years.
Ultimate Sunrise said, "I heard Talk to Me was whack." I think it was just okay. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. It was just okay. And I
Mhm.
think, like I said earlier about the character development was one of the things I was lacking. And the second thing is I think that the writers, I think what they did was colorblind casting, which in principle sounds good, but when you write a character and you just insert a person of color into that character, you have to add things to the character of their ethnicity.
Right.
Otherwise, it comes across like, why is this person acting this way? This is not the way we act.
I
You know,
agree with you.
you gotta, and I think that's what they did. I think when they wrote this script, they didn't have, any specific ethnicity in mind, but there are certain, um, I wouldn't say like, because there's
It's like
culture
little
and
nuances and
it's
stuff.
just
Like
little
like
things.
if you're dealing with a certain cultural character, you want people to identify with that
Mhm.
character as well. And yeah, she gave off too much Euro vibes for me. Like
Yeah,
and
it didn't
and she was. There's black British people. There's
yeah.
people, but even them, like even when Idris Elba, oh God bless
Mhm.
him,
Well,
even when Idris
yeah,
Elba's
there's
in
still
something, he gets down, like you know
yeah,
what I
and there
mean?
was another character that is meant to be he looks Pacific Islander, but they wrote him like he was just a regular, European well, they're from Australia, it's an Australian,
Oh right,
production,
right,
but the Pacific
right.
Islander kid, there was, like, nothing there that felt like specific to his character as a person of color. Other than he said one time, "Oh, this is some white people shit," but he was still doing some white people shit. So like that was it. That was the only line they added.
Right.
Speaking of this, I'm glad Tony Man asked you about where you're from because I was wondering from a person from New York if you had gotten to see the horror of Dolores Roach.
Of course, I supported that, girlfriend. Heck yeah. I also, well, I have my websites and stuff like that,
Hmm.
and I promoted that. Um, I really liked it. I thought it was a little, see, like we're going on culture now, right? I'm
Hmm.
Puerto Rican.
Hmm.
Um, I believe that the actress is Puerto Rican,
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
They in the empanada shop or whatever, they even had a Puerto Rican flag. But the
They
thing
did.
is,
But I think the people weren't Puerto Rican, or maybe some of them were
no, the area
Dominican.
they chose is a Dominican area.
Yeah,
But
because I was
see,
like, Washington Heights is
right, the
Dominican.
Heights is Dominican. So I
Mhm,
was like, and I'm Puerto Rican. I love that they represented us, but I thought that was off. I'm like, why is there a Puerto Rican flag and not a Dominican flag? They're in the
mhm,
Heights, you know what I mean? And yeah, I think that they should have added like a little bit more. And I did see some Dominican actors in there,
mhm,
but like I felt like, so like with Merciless Chris, well, with my film is gonna be
mhm,
in Harlem, but it's in Harlem, like,
mhm,
everything that's representative of Harlem or my culture growing up in Spanish Harlem,
mhm,
you know. I even have people that represent the culture that we grew up with in gonna be in the film. But I did that because I wanted to make a film from from how I was raised,
mhm,
like based on characters, based on my project life, based on, you know, um,
mhm,
the cultural differences, and not even because it's different. Like in Harlem, there's usually Black and Latinos. We like
mhm,
live together. We do everything together. We do cookouts together. We watch each other's children in the parks. You know what I mean? We get
mhm,
together, like, you know what I mean. So it's like it's kind of like all love, but I feel
mhm.
like in certain places they tend to try to separate us or like
Yeah,
separate that and make that like a point, like instead of like, I don't know. It to me that it bothers me with that, but
especially in online spaces. I feel like there's people online that they must have never left their house and touched
no,
grass because they get
there's a
online
lot of
and try
ignorance out
to
there.
pit Black Americans against Jamaicans against Afro Latinos, and it's like where I grew up, we were all together. That's
Right.
where we were together.
That's facts. All the way. Yeah. But see that you'll see that in my film. My film is like
Mhm.
multicultural, and I didn't do that because for the sake of I want to put a
Yeah,
person of color in. Like
it's
I've
just it,
always
it's
worked like
just
that.
realism. It's realism, especially in New York. That's
Right.
real New York.
Right. And
That's
what I like about it too is like there's so many like different Latino cultures too.
Mhm,
And I'm kind of surprised. Like I didn't even do this on purpose. It just kind of happened. Um that I have like a lot of Latinos, like Afro Latinos from Guatemala and Honduras. Like one of them is like a Garifuna artist, which is like Taino African roots. Like
mhm,
he makes it's kind of sounds like bomba or like like reggae a little.
mhm,
It has like that Caribbean undertone and everything like that, and I mean, like, there's so many different. Like, I have Dominican actors and Puerto Rican actors and light skinned Puerto Rican actors and dark skinned Puerto Rican actors.
mhm.
But it's all like,
Right.
oh, and this is how it is in the projects. Like, nobody really gets into asking people who they are or where they're from like that. It's like
Mhm,
we all kind of like grow up together, so we all kind of hang out together, and we all kind of
mhm,
have, so it's kind of like that too. All these guys, they're just a bunch of guys hanging out, with
mhm,
each other from the projects. And the only thing that they really have in common is the fact that they like sell drugs or they're doing evil together. You know what I mean? Because that's the backstory of some of them.
mhm.
But yeah,
Let me get some more chats here. I was hoping it would be like It Follows, a good slow burn. He's referring to Talk to
talk
Me.
to me.
And then also critics loving it, of course. Well, I think they want to promote it because it is an original story, and I do want it to be successful so that we get more original stories and not just everything being a remake and a sequel. So I do hope that.
Kind of
Sounds
reminded me of
interesting.
that monkey paw thing. That story, the monkey paw story.
Hmm. I just watched Butterfly Kisses. I've heard of that, but I've not seen it. Let's put that on my watch list. I'm gonna check out Haunted Asylum, Korean, right? Yes, it's South Korean. Colorblind doesn't sound very A24, lol. Very progressive studio like Neon. Well, they were trying to be progressive in their casting, but the writers are still, you know, white Australian dudes, and that's fine. But sometimes you have to ask questions. Sometimes you might have to get some co-writers to flesh things out because sometimes the writers don't have any say
Cultural,
in the casting process.
yeah, that's true.
But sometimes after the casting process is done, you may want to refinagle some things just to make it more, you know, I'm trying to say this in the best way so it sounds so people understand what I'm saying without it coming across as too nitpicky. Because I'm not a nitpicky person. I really am not. Freeman says, to be honest, Dolores Roach made me want empanadas. It did. Despite empanadas, you keep looking at them and you just have an automatic association with how good they taste.
I
So,
know. That was like, well, you know, it was like a Puerto Rican rendition of Sweeney Todd, I guess.
yes.
Yeah. I loved
And,
it. She's funny.
what is it called? They call it a podcast, but it was really like a radio teleplay. They had originally released Dolores Roach on
Right.
I think Spotify, and I
Yeah,
listened to the radio teleplay too, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. And the radio teleplay, Margaret Cho plays what was the woman's name? Jade, I think her name was Jade. That kept on coming and trying to get some jobs. I can't remember the actor's name that played Luis. It's actually an Italian actor play Luis. He's the guy that played Chip Rossetti on Boardwalk Empire, but I can't remember his name. Somebody in the chat will probably tell me his name. But it was really well acted out, just hearing it too. Ultimate Sunrise says, I believe in representation of culture, but not forced diversity for the sake of skin color or gender needs to feel appropriate. Here's the thing, what I don't like about the term forced diversity. When people say forced diversity, it says to me they want to live in a fantasy because we already, I mean, depending if you are an American or US person, this is a diverse country. That's what's real. That's reality. So saying it's forced, there's no forcing it. What's forced is things not being diverse because now you've created some BS that doesn't exist.
Right.
Tony Man says, will we even get a New York Latin horror movie with freestyle music in it?
It's funny you said that. Yes, that's part of my Merciless Christmas. There's gonna be it's funny you mentioned Judy Torres. If you're into freestyle, then you should know who Judy Torres is. She's in the film. She's gonna be in the film.
I did not know that that freestyle music was regional music until I moved down south and found out that people didn't know what freestyle music was. I was like,
a lot of people don't.
National.
Still, a lot of people don't. It was definitely like very Latino cultural based, you know. With I love it, you know, but like yeah, so Judy Torres is in it. Macho Camacho, Hector Camacho Jr. His father was like a Puerto Rican boxer. He fought everybody from De La Hoya to Tyson. And Hector Camacho Jr., he's gonna be in the film too. And then we have Apache Ramos from the Warriors that's gonna be in it. So those are like the Latinos from the Bronx, from you know, Harlem, and that have always contributed somehow back to the Latino people. The thing is that Harlem is not really represented too much in films, and East Harlem, like Spanish Harlem, like I never see it, like hardly ever. And I also want to like people have like certain ideologies of what Harlem's about, and like you know, I remember I went on a podcast and somebody was like, "Oh, so did you like, you know, like." Their stereotype like really upset at me to the point that I felt like just like logging off, you know? Yeah, because he was like asking me about, oh, so you see like people getting like killed every day, or you know, or it's so bad, or you know, and I'm like, you know, actually there are bad things about Harlem, just like any other neighborhood, I would think, but like I would say that there's like a lot of love too, and a lot of culture. Like all these people come together, young, old, you know what I mean? I mean, we have festivals in the street that honor our cultures, you know, and our Puerto Rican, like our Puerto Rican parade, our national Puerto Rican parade, that was like established here, you know, I mean, there in East Harlem by a committee, and they're still going strong, you know what I mean? That nobody would have ever known. Like the biggest Puerto Rican parade in America is in New York, and then everybody, and it's the only national one, so everybody has to kind of follow suit behind that. But
yeah, because we have one in Hartford, Connecticut, but it's not as big as the one in New York.
Right, because the one in New York. I mean, like people work like busted their asses. Like, excuse my language. I'm sorry. I don't.
Oh no, you're fine.
Curse.
No,
But
they're
yeah.
used to me cursing. You're fine.
But that's what I'm saying. I want to show all that. I want to show la maqueta, and I want to show that there's also good in these places.
Hmm.
That just because somebody may have been like, from the streets or whatever, they still have respect for the elders. They still watch out for the kids. They still
Hmm.
look out for each other. You know what I mean? It just some people depict it like we live in this like world of savages or something. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And I kind of want to show like all the sides to that, because Harlem is very colorful, and I mean I love it still to this day. Shit, I'm gonna move back. It's
Hmm.
like, you know what I mean? But
Just
yeah,
of
I got
the
a lot of love for it.
ultimate sunrise says, I'm saying it needs to feel organic, though. I get what you're saying. That's what we're
Yeah,
saying, that it needs to feel organic.
absolutely.
Yeah. So we agree.
That's
We
the
definitely
problem. See,
agree.
but that's the problem with Hollywood.
Hmm.
They're just trying to put people of color in things that were already made for white people,
Yeah.
basically, right? They're remaking every effing movie that's already been made and just implementing black characters in
Hmm.
there just for the sake of having color. And I feel like
Hmm.
that's taking away. And in a sense, to me, that's insulting. It's like, let us say our stories. There's
Yes.
so many beautiful stories about our backgrounds, our
Hmm.
culture, our people that will make sense to our people, our culture, our
Hmm.
backgrounds if you just let us do it instead, or letting more people of color green light more people of color that write, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So we can have those stories for people to fill, you know?
Hmm.
But I agree with you. Definitely needs to be organic.
Okay, I'm gonna take a little break now to it's like a little ad break because I've been talking all month and well the last 3 months about the Cabin in the Woods Film Festival.
Yes.
So I'm gonna play my little ad break. It's going to be about 2 minutes. So everybody go get you something to drink, something to eat. And we'll be right back. Let me just I'm using a new system, so I'm that's why things are going a little slow for me today. I'm like, why am I moving so slow? I have to get a little bit used to it again. There we go. All right, chat. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Now we're back. Now we're gonna really get into some fun stuff because, as Sen has mentioned multiple times, and this is one of the most exciting things that I'm like really I can't even get my words together. What I'm really excited to talk about is her work as a filmmaker. So my first question for you would be, as a woman of color, um, how did you, or I should say, are there some other women of color, like as you were coming up, that inspired you to get into the filmmaking um, world, I would say?
Yeah. Well, there's not that many, but I had a few like mentors. I used to be a part of an organization called New York Women in Film and Television.
Mhm,
And in New York City, they advocate a lot for inclusivity. And so I had a lot of females that were of color that were in different. So I was kind of like the first one in the horror genre.
mhm,
Like all the women, they were more like dramas and comedies or documentarians, but like I was able to like learn a little bit from all of them, in terms of uh in terms of um like current day. It's kind
no,
of hard to say because
my
there's.
my question is more for like when you were growing up, were there people, women or men,
Oh,
that you saw that kind of really inspired you, or you saw some of their work and it stuck with you?
well, I would say men, yes. Raul Julia
Mhm,
was somebody that he was Puerto Rican, he was
mhm,
Latino, and he made it pretty far before he passed away. And I wind up being a part of his the Puerto Rican Traveling Theater in New York City, where they
yeah,
had a actors unit dedicated to him because Miriam Colon,
mhm,
which is the second person I wanted to mention, she was in Scarface,
mhm,
and she was definitely a huge inspiration to me as a Puerto Rican actress. But not only that, she was somebody that was very important to literary works for Latinos as a whole, and people of color in general, because she brought theater to the streets, to these urban areas where people didn't have money to go to theaters, or they weren't privy to that because they were kind of gatekeeping that, and she
mhm,
didn't think that was fair, so she made it part of her mission to go out and get the actors and perform things like Macbeth and stuff like that in places like Harlem, Brooklyn. And then she wound up going even further and taking it to different countries in Latin America, and brought also in turn a lot of literary works from those playwrights for people to perform. So it was just keeping up the cycle and trying to get more people of color involved in projects in theater, and
mhm,
hopefully eventually trickle that into film. So there's a lot of people that are like still to this day very honored to have known her, because she paved the way even for Raul Julia. She made it
mhm.
possible for that to happen. So yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, no, no, no. If you guys see me flinching, there's one single fruit fly that is terrorizing me, and I'm trying I'm trying not to wave it. But if you guys see me flinching, I do not I don't have anything uh physically wrong with me. It's just a fly bothering me. And I'm
Right.
me very doing a poor job trying to play it off. But I do want to get into some of these movies. I wanted to play the trailers for Horror Able, and also Horror Able Women, because there's so much I have to say about this. Let me get that queued up because, oh my God, um, I was emotional when I saw these.
And I had absolutely no problem with the fact that, the Phantom of the Opera and Freddy Krueger were the first things I saw that looked like me.
My name is Richard Bergen. I am a writer and director, and I have high functioning autism.
Funny story. When I was 4, my parents always let me watch. My grandparents always let me watch horror films, which my mom wasn't necessarily happy about.
If someone is disabled with just a physical disability, living in a state of constant pain, daily pain, chronic pain, really plays havoc on your psyche.
And then I was born in 1948, premature by a couple of months.
And the AD got word that I was not with one hand and told the person who hired me that they were going to have to let me go because she didn't think that I could carry a box.
Before, or the ability to create whatever there is you're supposed to be creating, I would hire the wrong way.
Go out and write something. If you like to film, go out and film something. I think that I haven't let my disability stop me from creating.
How is deaf gain in animation? How living a visually dominant life makes you a better animator and gives you a leg up as an artist.
Like on Son of the Sorcerer, the first moment is when you walk out onto the set, and you know it's seeing all those people there that are trying to realize what was in your head for so long, and now they're trying to build it in reality.
You have the passion, you have the drive. Don't let your disability stop you from doing it.
What message do you have to people that are either bullies or people that look to disabled people like they're inferior? Is there a message you have to those people?
Burn in hell. I'm a horror.
I love that. And then that one is, where is that available to stream?
Okay, so Horror Able, I know it says 2022. It had to switch not directors, editors, because I was trying to make it 100% inclusive, both in front and behind the scenes. So my editor had a disability that really, he wasn't able to move forward. You know, he was very sick or whatever. So that delayed the project. We
Oh, frozen for a moment.
Oh, sorry.
There we go.
So and last year we were fortunate to find a new editor. He has Tourette's, and so that's coming out literally by next week. We should have the film done. It's just about done. We had to do a couple of tweaks to it because of the fact that there was a delay. So that trailer that you just played, it's a combination of Horror Able Women and Horror Able. So there's a few people on that project that's not on the feature-length film, which is Horror Able, and basically it's a documentary about horror creatives with disabilities in the industry, speaking about their experiences. And also, but it goes more in depth. It's very educational. It breaks down some of the stigmas. It educates you. I mean, like, I learned, it was a learning experience for me. And yes, it can get very emotional. Some of stories are touching, especially, you know, when they're talking about being persecuted for just wanting to pursue a passion, or, you know what I mean? So it's, you know, whereas some people on that documentary, having a disability was a blessing for them, you know what I mean? That got them further in their careers because of that. So, that is coming out soon. Like, we're literally in the final stages of the edit. Like, I've already seen the rough cut, and it looks, I was crying. I was crying when it first started, and I was crying when it ended. And also because along the way we lost somebody on that documentary, so we're dedicating it to Albert Pioun, which is the Asian guy. He was an Asian sci-fi director, in case you guys didn't know, and he made films like The Sword and the Sorcerer and Cyborg, and a lot of like sci-fi, like older 80s sci-fi films. But he was battling dementia, and he had like brain damage and stuff like that. So it was really sad seeing him speak in this documentary. And talking about, there were things that he said that we didn't put in the documentary because it's like really sad, you know. It's like stuff that he was saying how about his condition and the kind of things that used to happen to him. So we did include some of that, but because, you know, I didn't, it's a touchy subject because he just recently passed away. I didn't want to make it too, you know, we want to like kind of remember him the best way possible. And so yeah, just thinking about it makes me want to cry.
I'm gonna play the other trailer because I love both trailers, and then I'm gonna add my little 2 cents about my emotional experience watching it.
Right. Okay.
Here's the second one.
My name's Amy Crabtree.
My name is
Her name is Sarah. Sure.
Fabi Sitabi,
Jennifer Valdez,
Sabrina Cooper, and I am a producer that has a company called Black Castle Productions.
I am a trusted name in terror. I write horror, science fiction, dark fantasy.
I'm an award-winning horror filmmaker.
She's trying to be a small-time actress in horror movies.
I'm an independent horror film promoter, producer, and actress.
I have my own agency. It's a marketing and business agency.
Seeing disabled people in horror movies, I'm not sure if the representation is enough or even accurate.
So it's already hard if you're an able-bodied woman of color. But if you're a disabled woman of color,
it makes certain people uncomfortable.
But more people need to be a bit open-minded.
When I first watched that trailer last night, I teared up because my viewers know this, but I'm non-neurotypical. I have ADHD, and that also comes with an anxiety disorder, which a lot of people with ADHD end up having because we're so anxious about what we're going to fuck up. It's because of our memory issues, and it's just a lot. And the thing about it that makes it kind of difficult is because it's kind of an invisible disability. Like people don't know until you start talking, and then they figure something might be a little bit off. And then only just recently I learned that I do something called stimming with my hands. I never noticed it before, but people are like, well, you move your hands funny. And I looked it up and I said, well, do people with ADHD do stuff with their hands? And apparently, yes, we do a similar type of stimming that some autistic people do with their hands. But it's for a different reason. For us, it's the constant motion. We have to feel like we're moving. So sitting still is more difficult. So you have to like on a subconscious level, you're doing something to move. So that chewing gum and one of the hardest things for me to do is to multitask. That's why just doing this live stream is so hard because I have to click buttons and talk at the same time. But yeah, to see other people talking about their disability in a very candid, matter-of-fact way, I want so many people to see this. It's like I really feel like we need to, number one, destigmatize it, and number two, let people know when we tell you that we have these disabilities, we're not using it as an excuse. We're saying it's so that you understand why our behaviors might be different as we're doing what we're doing.
Right. Exactly. And I feel like that was definitely a topic that needed to be touched on because there is a lot of discrimination. I mean, being a woman of color, right? Being a person of color, we face discrimination in Hollywood, in the industry, or just in general, right? But taking it one step further and being that same woman with a disability, whether it's invisible, meaning you can't see it with the naked eye, right? But there's something going on there, or something physical, it makes that challenge just that much harder, you know. And I have a special place for that in my heart because, you know, I've been on and off disabled for things, you know. And I was raised by not an able-bodied family. Everybody in my family was disabled in some way, shape, or form. I did this because something happened to my sister. My sister has severe epilepsy,
Mhm.
and her brain because of that hasn't developed properly, and so things happen to her because of that. People take advantage of her.
Mhm.
And during the pandemic, there was a snowstorm out in Harlem. She caught a seizure, and they kind of left her in the snow, robbed her for her coat while she was seizing, and that got me so mad. And
Mhm.
that's how Horror Able started, actually, because I'm a horror filmmaker, and I wanted to know more stories like this. I want to know who's in the industry that's being discriminated against, because I
Mhm.
advocate for inclusivity. And as you can see, there are white people in this, but
Mhm.
I feel like they're underdogs. Like these
Mhm.
people that are there, they have been faced with like huge discrimination, and I feel like all their stories are important and all their stories should be told.
I
So
agree.
yeah, like I feel like I learned things about like the difference between autism and uh like I mean there's some. I don't want to like mess up I don't want to spoil the documentary, but just know that there's a lot of different conditions
Mhm.
that are going to be discussed. We have people. I have a person from the ADA, which is the American Disabilities Act, that kind of reinforce some of the laws that have
Mhm.
been in place but aren't being abided by. And it's just a very informative, impactful film,
Mhm.
and you're gonna fall in love with so many of the people. I mean, like, everybody's such a blessing on there, and people will make you cry with some of their
Mhm.
stories, because it's such a personalized internal thing where people are discussing. This was very hard for some people. Some people never even discuss their disabilities, and
Oh
they're
yeah.
discussing in full depth things, that's going on with them. It wasn't an easy role for them, but because they're horror able, because they
Mhm.
want to pursue in the horror industry, they want their stories to be told. You
Mhm.
know, and I'm dying to get this out. Like right now, Horror Able Women is in the film fest circuit.
Yes.
You should hopefully be able to see it at Cabin in the Woods. We were selected. Thank you, Crystal. She's also
Mhm.
in a documentary, and this was unplanned. Like, I didn't,
Mhm.
like, when we did it, she hadn't thought about her film festival yet. So I was like, oh wow, this is so great, seeing that milestone accomplished. You know, that's another thing too. When you look at the documentary, people say their goals, and then
Mhm.
actually seeing things into fruition really makes me happy. The
Yeah.
deaf girl, Sarah, the one that was covered in blood, signing, uh, she's actually going to be in an upcoming film with me as well. So, and something that I learned about this, because I'm about inclusivity, but I never thought about taking into account yet bringing on people with disabilities, and now I'm more conscious of that now with my filmmaking choices. Now I'm looking to hire people with disabilities, work with people. I mean, inclusivity was a given. I always want to lift up my
Mhm.
women of color, and that's always gonna be. But this just showed me like a different side, and it opened my eyes hearing them speak. Like, this is not even something I thought about. Like, oh, but now I'm purposely looking for, to involve myself with people that are, with disabilities, to help lift them up in this genre as well. And I have actually a horror able group on Facebook. Have about 300 members. There's a
Oh,
lot of
nice.
people with disabilities a part of that, and some people share their works. And
Mhm.
so we have, people with autism, Down syndrome, and different other, um, Parkinson's, like different other, and some of them actually have come forward and have shared their disabilities. There were people that I knew personally that never knew they had a disability until that. So it actually helped people feel more comfortable with speaking about their disabilities,
Mhm.
because some people hide them because they don't want to be, if they have an invisible disability, they don't want to be stigmatized, so they try to keep
Yeah.
that, and and in some cases, if they're on sets or whatever like that, and they don't disclose that, that could lead to something dangerous for that person.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
it's a double-edged sword for people that are non-neurotypical, because on the one hand, you don't want to reveal it because you're afraid that people are going to make a negative assessment of your abilities and think, oh, well, this person can do this, that, and the other. But on the other hand, you feel like you have to reveal it so that people will know, okay, this is why this person's not making eye contact. It's not because they're rude. It's not because, they just are looking around at everything else. It's really their mind is making them do that. So it's like, do I tell somebody so that they know that when I'm talking to them and my eyes dart around, it's not because I'm disinterested in what they're saying? Or do I not tell them so that they can get to know me first, see that I'm competent, and then, I'll tell them that I have this issue. It's it's a very hard thing to cope with.
yeah, it is. It's very challenging at times.
Mm-hmm.
But I hope that this will I want everybody to watch it. Like, I don't care where it's at. You know what I mean? But I want it to reach like a big audience, because I really want to spread this message. I hope it just doesn't get tossed to the side. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's so important for their stories to be told. And I'm like, I went broke just on my short film, just trying to enter it in as many film festivals, because I'm just like, I just want people to see it. You know what I mean? And we didn't get selected into a lot of them, but and some of them we did. So it's like, it's more like, I just want to get the message out, the word out. Horror Able Women should be, I'm planning to put it up like on Tubi or something, like by the end of the year. So that should be up. And Horror Able will follow like probably around December for online release. But fingers crossed, we're looking for a distributor. So if not, we're gonna have to self-distribute. But like I said, I don't care. I want to get it out. So
let me hit up the chat again. The Evil Tyrone is here. He has a great channel. I'm going to introduce you guys because I think y'all would have an awesome conversation. He's a much better interviewer than me. I'm only just started this. He's really good. Very, very chill, relaxed.
Nice.
Tony Man says, sorry guys, I had to tone out for a stupid meeting, but I'm loving this combo. No problem. That's part of the reason why I do these at 4 p.m. As I thought about, like, back in the day when I used to work, like I used to be a technical designer at a fashion brand, and that last hour of work was always so hard to get through. I gotta find something to listen to for that last hour of work. So I thought 4 o'clock is a good time, for people to have something to listen to at the last hour of work. I'm going to write a treatment about a city Italian Irish kid who was one of 3 white folks in a city school. It's going to be like Carrie. I wouldn't make it like Carrie, because if you do that, it will come across as if you're being racist towards the people of color in your school. If you want to make it, I would make it more of a comedy. I feel like that story is best told as a comedy and about what it's like for you to be a white minority. I think the comedy route would be a better way of looking at the situation without making it come across as if it was racist. So just I know it's not your intention. I'm just telling you beforehand what others might interpret it as. You always have to, there's your intention and there's how people take it. Those are 2 different things you really have to think about. Tournament says, I'm about to take off and head to Casamia. I'll be back on hopefully when I get some Wi-Fi. Okay, and Tyrone says, thank you. You're one of my many inspirations. Me? Thank you. I'm always surprised.
You're a great speaker.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I'm tripping over my words today because I was so excited to have you as a guest, and I feel a little bit nervous because I'm like, oh my God, I have like a director on you. And I mean, I interact with other directors, but like, I feel like your work has more gravitas, has so much weight to it,
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate you for that. Thank you so much.
Now, if you guys give me just a moment, I want to pull up her website so you guys can see them. Oh, missed an R. Here we go. So I'm going to share the screen and we're going to look at these sites because they're pretty good. I love the concept of both of them.
We gotta meet because I just seen where you logged in from.
There we go. This is Women of Color in Horror. And as you can see, the setup of this is great. I love this picture, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
This group is created in honor and support of women of color in all facets of horror, sci-fi, and thriller genre. Then you have great photo gallery.
Oh, she's great.
There's a blog on here. And there's interviews on here as well.
She's great. Oh,
Yes.
Greta. Yeah.
Yes, Greta. She's really cool online. She retweeted my sister one time, and then she retweeted me one time. We were just talking about her career and how, like, the impact she left on us seeing her in Demons.
Yes. Yeah. I believe that is, like, out of all the Demons movies, because that came out around the time as Night of the Demons. I like Demons way better than Night of the Demons.
Oh yeah,
it's so much better, and I think it's because of the fact that they have, one, it's gorier, and two, it's not. It's very inclusive. Like,
yes, there was a visually impaired man at the movie theater, and then you
blind guy. Remember the blind guy?
Yes.
Yeah, they had different characters. See, they were more creative with but see, there was a difference around that time in terms of inclusivity. Like, Europeans have always been a lot more inclusive than.
Yeah, that's what when I was doing my research to write my little piece about Greta, how her and there's several other women when I wrote that piece about the Black girls in horror. There's several women that did way better in Europe than in the United States as actresses and models.
Right. Josephine Baker was a really famous one too. She basically renounced her
citizenship.
Yeah, because she got treated better in Paris, and she said she didn't face those, that racism. Her story is really sad though.
It is.
That story, because she tried to, like, bring, like, nations together by adopting all these children from all over the world. Like that
her,
was,
her rainbow tribe, I think she called them.
God bless her. So cute. You know how her children always get together at every year. They come together, and they're from all different nations. They're African children from Latin America, even white children. She was just bringing everybody together because she wanted to break that stigma. She wanted people to be more unified.
This is the other site, horrortourguide.com. Says, welcome to our blood-curdling horror tour guide, a place to quench your thirst for the macabre. Our monster team is working very hard to deliver the goriest, craziest, and darkest stuff for all of your horror cravings. Did I mention we are huge supporters of indie horror? We welcome your comments, feedback, and questions, so don't be afraid. Just kidding, be very afraid. To contact us with your killer inquiries. Thank you for being a dismembered part of our new horror community. As your support grows, so will our site and offerings. Feel free to stalk us as much as you like. We hope you enjoy what we have to offer. If not, we'll just haunt you until you do. And there's some things that are going to be across both platforms, but there's some things that are unique to this platform as well.
Right. Like, there's specific travel blogs for Horror Tour Guide. If in the blog section, there's a haunted history, I think it is. And when you go into the haunted history, you'll have, like, blogs of places I used to travel before the pandemic to, a lot of, like, haunted places. Yeah, places like
History House, the Triangle Factory Nightmare, Moore's Jumel Mansion, Poe Cottage and Haunted Fate of the Poetic Mastermind, the Death House, the Whaley House Museum, and the Balsley House. Yeah.
Yeah, I started it when I was living out in Cali. So I went to like ghost towns and museums that had like haunted histories to them. Like they were either built on gallows or there's like a lot of history in California. So
Oh yeah.
I'm all about the history. And a lot of those places are in New York too. So like the Morris Jamel mansion being haunted by a woman supposedly that lived in that house. And the first battle of Brooklyn or Algiers or something like that, George Washington that was the house where George Washington fought or whatever. So there's American history involved in there as well, and a lot of paranormal stuff. There's a guy that was featured on Ghost Adventures that was on that Jamel Mansion interview.
A serial killer calls a popular radio show. I feel like I have a vague memory of that. Graveyard Shift, East End, East Maya, my new fluff. Very, very cool.
And we've created like original content, not much, but like I made like an animated short film that was called like Ghastly News, where I turned into a werewolf because that was my thing. Slaughter Sin, She-Wolf, Empress of Gore. Then we had a year. The website every year is different. Well, there's like a different mission with the business. So we first started with like video podcasts, something like similar to what you're doing, except like it would kind of end with me slaying the victims, like slaying the interviewees. So at the end they have to like beg for their lives, and then we have like this, because I was supposed to play this like, you know, werewolf. Like that's what I kind of started with, my She-Wolf, Empress of Gore. That was my name for like the Slaughter Sin. That's where that came from. And then we did then I just did a lot of written blogs for people. I've done travel blogs. I've done like recs, like recommendations to places. And it kind of like the traveling stopped because for obvious reasons, but I would love to get back to that, you know. It's always fun. With Horror Tour Guide, it's women of color in horror is exclusively towards women of color, you know, for, by, and about women of color in horror, and also to educate us on laws that are in place. So there's like a section in there that like I'll find articles about maybe a lawsuit because they misuse or they misallocated the, you know, the funds for diversity, and they, you know, Paramount used it for themselves or something like that, or something. So yeah, that one's a little bit different, but Horror Tour Guide is kind of like all encompassing. So it's like, you know, it's kind of or if it's horror, it's fair game, you know.
Chat, is the top of that cut off for you? Because when I'm looking at it, I just see Christmas, but it should say Merciless Christmas on this on the poster.
It's kind of like the letters are like a little bit smaller and merciless, but
I'm gonna check on the channel to see if it's displaying right, because it might just be how it's showing us, but I want to make sure that the thing is showing correctly. There we go. Okay, it's showing the whole title on the channel. Just wanted to double check. This is an upcoming project. Sin mentioned it earlier in our broadcast, but I would like her to talk about it again since it's going to be coming up this winter.
Yes. We go into production in December. A Merciless Christmas.
This is the one that's set in Spanish Harlem.
Right. It's set in Spanish Harlem. Harlem, big location is the projects. So, which I don't ever remember ever seeing a project Harlem, a Harlem project horror.
No, the closest I've seen is probably Candyman, but that was in Chicago. That wasn't
right. And
even like, Vampire in Brooklyn. You didn't really see much of Brooklyn. It looked like a lot of sets and like a sound stage of a street. I don't even think they ever filmed it. Maybe at the harbor, like when they went to greet that boat. I think that's the only thing that looked New York-ish. But again, that could have been is it Toronto that they're always filming? They're always filming in for New York,
right? Yeah, but like, yeah, Candyman would be the first like horror film from the projects, but there is a kind of like a sort of a supernatural element to Merciless Christmas that I'm not gonna spoil, but it's a slasher. It's a revenge slasher.
Ah, I love it.
Somebody messed with
it
his family and kind of left them for dead, and he wound up surviving, and he's coming for all of them. So everybody's gonna pay. He will be coming for that ass. Oh, I forgot to send you that other poster. But the other poster is Eugene Clark. So Eugene Clark is our lead. He was in films like George Romero's Land of the Dead. If you remember, like Big Daddy, he was like the main character, the smart zombie. And he's gonna be in this. He also is going to be starring in a series that got halted because of the strike, but it's called The Madness, and it's gonna be featured on Netflix. So if you go on Netflix, you'll see it. It says in production or coming soon or something, but it gives you the option to set a reminder. So Eugene is going to be in that. And they're pretty much done with production. I think they were just missing a little bit more, but that should be coming out. Hopefully, if everything goes well, their series should be coming out before my movie. So that would help boost with my movie too. And I do plan to have a theatrical release with this film. You know, it might be a limited run, but the goal is to push it in theaters. Like I want to get I want to have this film in a movie theater, you know.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun. It's funny. I mean, like there's funny scenes to it. There's like gory, like what the F scenes, like, but you know, and some of the dynamics like with the police officers is like basically like the films that we grew up watching in the 80s, how like they were like bumbling cops, you know, like detectives that were like you know, had like this satire to them in a sense. So it's kind of like that as well.
There was something I was going to say, I forgot. Oh, you mentioned the strike. I should have said earlier in the broadcast that the Cabinet Ridge Film Festival is not affiliated with any of the studios. It's a completely independent film festival. We do support SAG-AFTRA strike. I think it's a very important because people may be confused and wonder, well, how can you have a film festival during a strike? The purpose of the strike is to get these large companies like Paramount to pay people with their work.
Right.
In the interim, we don't want to punish the independent filmmakers who have already worked very hard, spent a lot of money to get their films made. And not just the filmmakers, the actors, the crew, everyone associated still has to eat. So for that, I feel like we are justified in still featuring what we're featuring, even though there is a strike going on, because we're not crossing picket lines and we're not doing anything that would be a deterrent in my eye.
Right.
And also, we don't want to give them the excuse that, oh, well, we didn't pick these things up because there was no interest, because they'll do that too. They'll pull out, oh, there wasn't enough interest in that property, so we're not going to give another woman a chance or give another minority a chance. They pull that on us all the time, so we can't even let them have the opportunity to make that excuse. Although they try to do it anyways. Fun fact, one of the highest grossing movie of 1984 was Beverly Hills Cop, which starred Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy, right.
And do you know for 10 years after that, they tried to say they couldn't sell a black lead in the film. Yeah, they said it was one of the reasons why they said they didn't want Denzel Washington for the Equalizer. They didn't think that was part of the, I think it was the Sony leaks that we found out that some executive in the film, the big film company, said that they didn't think that Denzel Washington could play an Equalizer because, you know, a black lead doesn't sell. And I believe that was after. No, it wasn't after. It was before Black Panther. But yeah, they still try to make that excuse, and we have the internet now. We can check the numbers. You can't lie to us anymore.
Numbers don't lie. I was really rooting for Idris Elba for 007, and I was so pissed when they should. Well, they just, you know, him. Sorry, I'm like can I curse? Like,
Yeah. Yes, you can curse.
Yeah, okay. Well, when they shitted on him, I was really upset about that because he's
Mhm.
a great freaking actor. I think he's sexy as fuck, and I think like if anybody should play 007, should be him. And the book isn't written as a white character. He's just written as an Englishman, and they're a black Englishman. So I'm like, you know, I don't know. I think that Idris Elba would have been perfect. He has like that suave personality. He's a great actor. He's fit, you know, and they dissed him. And that got me mad. That made me not want to watch 007 anymore because I'm like, why can't he be Bond? Like, why can't James Bond,
They need to do something to revitalize the series anyways, because even when you say James Bond, I don't even think of the actor for James Bond. My mind automatically thinks of Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible. So my mind doesn't even recognize that anymore. So they need to do something to make people interested again.
Right. Yeah, they definitely do. They should just come out with some new stuff. But, anyway, I hope I could change that. I have a lot of upcoming things, a lot of things that I'm working on now. And so by next year a lot of my stuff should be out. I've been a filmmaker for over a decade,
Wow.
I've made a lot of like films, mostly short though, but worked on a lot of projects, produced 3 of the witchcraft films when I was living in California. So it's like I'm trying, but it is really hard to be noticed if you're not showing your tits or
I
don't
was
get me
just having
started
a
on that,
conversation with
girlfriend.
someone about music. We were talking about Janelle Monáe, and we were like, remember when she did the whole short film with the arch android and how cool that was? And now it's just, oh, here's my tits. I mean, I can't blame her. I know this is what the industry is demanding of her, but
but don't play into that. Like,
yeah, it sucks so bad because
I get it.
It's literally working. Because you look at her older videos that were deep like that, they barely, like the one I was just talking about. It's called Mini Moons. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but if you haven't, I'll send it to you. It's a short film that's also a music video, and it's so good. It's been out maybe 10 years, and it just now got 1 million views. Just now.
Oh my goodness.
Whereas I guarantee you the video with her tits out has got millions of views. It's just, it sucks that these companies only go by algorithm when they or views rather than going by sales.
Right.
Because a lot of these dudes that'll click on a video to look at the tits, are they going to purchase the album? Are they going to stream the music? Are they just going to? Because that's what happened with Nicki Minaj's Anaconda. I recall that the music video had hundreds of millions of views, but the song itself didn't sell very much.
Right. Because it was all about that. Sex sells. But the problem that I have, I moved out to Hollywood. I was living out in California for 2 years I went from Harlem to Hollywood actually to try to do that. And I kept getting hit, meeting like a lot of like sleazeballs. I had contracts put on the table that if I slept with guys that I would get on certain projects as like associate producer or whatever and kind of work my way up from that. And one of them was a film that still to this day I don't have slated. It's a werewolf origin story that I have like a sample comic of that, but that was something that was supposed to take off in LA, and it was just kind of effed up because it was like I couldn't get anywhere unless I slept with someone. So I ended up back in Harlem, and I was just so upset that like I felt so defeated that I came back to California from Harlem, like because that ended. Like I was doing works on projects where Beyonce was supposed to be on, and I had all these coverages. Like I was in it. I was doing things, according to like Hollywood standards. But then I got met with that. And obviously I didn't play on that. You see where I'm at now. But because I have like this thing is like, just as a woman, I respect myself in general. I don't sell myself, for nothing. I have pride, like enough pride in myself to do that. I can't fault the women that do, because, to each his own. Like some women, if they want to sell themselves short like that, then that's on them. The problem is that creates a tidal wave. It creates an effect that's going to affect other women of color after you. And so we're already stigmatized. And this is statistically proven that Latina women just, are the most likely to take off their clothes on camera. That's the statistic that's on us. You know what I mean? And now you think people are paired with all these like fantasies of our women, right? Let's not do that. Let's not play into these guys' illusions. Let's not exploit ourselves. Let's not exploit our fellow women. And if you're gonna have sex scenes or nudity scenes, do it tastefully. Not have like unnecessary like a woman going to take a shower for no apparent reason, right? We just have to see a woman sits and act like why? You know what I mean? Why do women have to be stigmatized like that? I have a problem with that.
I was talking to my sister yesterday about Jennifer Lopez kind of passing the torch to Becky G. And she was like, well, why did she pass it to Becky G when like Cardi B is right there and she's also from the Bronx? And I was thinking, I said to her, well, as bitchy as J-Lo is known to be, and people do not like her, they say her attitude is trash. She worked very hard to try to dispel certain stereotypes for years, only to have Cardi B come out and be all those stereotypes that she was trying to dispel. So I think that's why she liked Becky G more, even though Becky G's from the West Coast and not from the Bronx. She's a little less, well, not a little less, she's a lot less of what people stereotype Latinas to be.
Right. See, I have a problem with J-Lo though, because J-Lo, I know
we can talk about her BS all day.
Yeah, see, Jennifer Lopez is not somebody that openly like may have openly done certain things, but behind the scenes she sold herself to get where she's at. She did, and I'm calling it because it's people like her that make me so effing upset because she's Puerto Rican. Like,
well, she ran around with Diddy. We know what that was.
Yeah, right.
So like,
no, but like way before that, she was doing stuff. She's been in that life.
Oh, and same thing with In Living Color. There's allegedly she might have been messing with Keenan Ivory, and that's why she got on as a fly girl.
Right. And they're also, she definitely slept her way to that role, and like, but the thing is that once she became something, she shit on those same people that kind of put her on anyway.
Yes, I've never seen her thank Keenan Ivory not once. That's the person that put you on TV, and you never thank him.
I don't give a fuck. And her ass is fake. I'm putting it out there.
Oh,
I'm putting it out there because, like I'm a massage therapist by trade. So like, you know, we had to deal with a lot of celebrities and stuff like that. And, you know, she has shots. She has shots in that ass. I'm gonna blow it up because, you know, I'm gonna blow it up because, you know, like some of us got it and some of us don't, you know, some of us, it comes from Miami and some of us come from Miami, but like, yeah, so I have problems with women exploiting themselves, especially because it's been hard for me to make it because I'm not following that trend. So that's why I'm here where I'm at, you know, whereas, and there's another, right now there's a Latina that knows me personally, and she's already done a film for Blumhouse. And in the beginning, I was really excited because I was like, oh, wow, a fellow Latina, whatever. She's Mexican. She, you know, she's already made a few horror films. They're decent. But how did she get like their attention? Because she's also, I found out she's also on Mexican Playboy showing her tits. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
Okay, no wonder I'm still struggling because I'm not doing that. I'm not like, you know, and I just want people to know that that's not the way to go necessarily. You know, just because somebody's doing that, you're missing out on real talent, you know, because you're just gravitating towards the physical. And, you know, they're all beautiful women. They're all very beautiful women. But I just feel like have a level of respect for yourself. And if not for yourself, do it for the future generation to come. Because we're not all here to spread our legs for every freaking guy that comes through, you know? And so that's a problem. And I'm sorry I had to even that's something that really annoys me. Yeah, it really annoys me.
It's okay. Let me hit up the chat. Filmmaking Latte says, dang, I thought Idris was going to play Bond. And then they also said, not forgetting her coochie pants. Talking about Janelle Monáe, she had a music video where she had these pants that literally look like labia. Tony says, I'm back, yo. Guess I'm gonna have to watch the replay for the time long I'm here. Yeah. You have to watch the replay because I think you missed the part when we were talking about horror able, both documentaries. Tony says, say what you want about J-Lo. She's just Jenny from the block. She used to have a little, now she got a lot.
Oh, about that, Jenna, the neighbor, okay, the block that she grew up on. I was an assistant teacher at the school across the street. It's a Bronx Preparatory Charter School across the street. Jennifer Lopez grew up in a private house in the Bronx. Okay. There's a difference between how you're raised, right? She was born in this private house in the Bronx. Not like there's like a bad thing, but if you come from the projects, like real street shit, you know what I mean? That's like, you had it made. Like we didn't grow up in private houses, you know what I mean? But anyway, these kids across the street, all kids of color, they wrote a letter to her. Hey, this is our school. We're right across the street from your house. Can you please help us with raising money for? They needed computers. So they wrote a letter of request to Jennifer Lopez and she shitted on them. She didn't get them nothing. But she came back to advocate against obese children, right? And push that agenda. Now, these kids really needed that, you know, and these were kids that some of them don't even have hopes of, you know, of like grandeur because of the fact of where the neighborhoods that they're from. And I've dealt with these kids, you know, I've dealt with kids that are so effing talented, but think they'll never make it in Hollywood because of the color of their skin or because of their ethnic background. That's facts. This is why we need to change that agenda. And this is why we need to support our fellow women of color, our fellow people of color. Stories, push the hell out of those, because there's kids watching. And these kids are emulating this. And when they see all white faces or they see neighborhoods that they can't relate to, they're not seeing stories from where they're from. You know, you're losing a lot of good talent. You know, there's a lot of good kids out there that feel like they're not worth shit. And it's sad to say, but it's true. You know, and people like Jennifer Lopez, you're a multimillionaire. You couldn't donate computers to your school, like across the street from your block. You know what I mean? Like, I have a problem with that. So my goal is, if I'm ever blessed, you know, financially through my films, I do want to give back to my block. I do want to do things for the kids in the hood, because there's a lot of ambitious kids out there. They're just not given opportunities. They hate us. They take our programs away. They defund shit for us. They they don't want to see us succeed. And they know some of these kids are like in really bad situations where they need that help, but they're purposely not doing that. So it's up to.
Oh no. YouTube does not want us to talk about real shit. I see. I see you, YouTube. You froze the screen because you don't want us to talk about real shit.
Yeah, basically. I feel passionate about that because, you know, I'm a single mom. You know what I mean? And if the kids don't have anything to look up to, you're creating a false narrative for these children.
Yes.
Because these kids don't come from white backgrounds. So now they may feel inadequate some way, shape, or form because they're not that color, or they're not.
Not only that, you're producing
background
by not giving a wide range of people opportunity. Everything becomes mediocre. I'm seeing it in film. I'm seeing it in music. I'm seeing it in fashion, and it's all the same thing. Nepotism babies that don't have the talent, don't have the drive, don't have the passion or creativity, but they have the money to take that free internship and work it 6 months until they get, you know, leveled up, or have the end of having a relative that knows a person that knows a person. So now you look at the catwalk now, and the fashions are not even sewn well. They look trash. The person doesn't even know what fabric to use. It looks trash because they didn't spend the time learning it. They didn't have to. They had a shortcut. They knew a person that knew a person, and now they're doing this. And the same thing with film, and the same thing with music. You got producers that don't understand musical theory at all, but they had the money and to pay for the studio time to do what they needed to do. And you end up with everything becoming mediocre.
Right. I 100% completely agree. There is so much talent. There's so much talent in the hood. Like, I have met so many people, and they're, you know, they have their dreams. They stick with their dreams, and they're still continuing their dreams, but they're not getting that opportunity. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's like I feel like society is missing out because they're restricting people over stupidity. Like, you know, I feel like there should be a lot more opportunity for people. Like, I really do.
Yes.
You know.
Tony Man says my favorite place in the Bronx is on Concourse, aka Yankee Stadium. I used to take the Metro North to Grand Central and get off on 125th Street and hop on a subway to Yankee Stadium. And then if you keep them poor, they'll always rely on handouts from Big Brother. I don't even know. Like,
what?
I would say more so if you keep them poor, then they will take menial labor jobs. They'll just be menial labor. I don't think they want the handouts as much as they want you to be, you know, an automaton, someone that just all you can do is you work at Amazon or you work at Walmart and that's it. You're just there to stock the shelves, send things to other people. That's it. They don't want you to be more than a worker bee. I would think that more so than handouts. Big Brother always stays in control that way. Well, in order for I can get into the whole argument of capitalism and how capitalism requires an underclass in order for it to work, but that's not what this stream is about. so that's another day. You Google that. Google what it really means, what capitalism really means to work. If it's not an underclass here, then it'll be an underclass somewhere else, as you've seen with a lot of these companies who decided, oh no, we're not making the working poor in America make us enough money. We have to go and get some people in China or in Colombia or wherever else we can pay even less than the working poor in America. That's the whole reason why they started outsourcing things. They can increase their profits, even though they were already making millions. Just had a lightning warning when heading out of the group. Will you stop telling me your play-by-play? Sorry. Nothing we're talking about. Okay. I need to wrap up the show anyways because I am hungry. I want to eat dinner. But we'll talk about capitalism on another day when I talk about a horror movie that discusses capitalism, which Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead very, very much talk about capitalism, but you know, it's woke. Horror has always been woke.
I think Purge will fall under that.
Yes, the Purge. Yes. Just the difference in protection. A person who is wealthy during a purge versus people who don't have the wealth to have all this security and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we can have these conversations, but not today. Today we're talking about independent film. So again, Sin, thank you so much for coming by. I enjoyed having the conversation. We could talk for hours because I can see we have a lot in common, a lot we can talk about. I'm going to wrap the show. Stay here for a moment after the show because I want to talk to you, but I'm going to play the outro. Thank you to the chat. I had a good time.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there was, you guys were listening intently and that's why there was less comments, but I really appreciate that. The show flowed very, very well. And with that, I'm going to get out of here and we'll see you next Friday. Yes, next Friday I will be back here, but it won't be the same time because we're doing a live stream on Discord with Rainbow Fright. We're going to be watching Castle Freak at 5:00, and then we'll live stream at 7:30 to talk about Castle Freak. Thanks. With that, I'll say goodbye.